Coach Nick, B-Ball Breakdown. Welcome back to the show.
Always great to be here, Combo. It's like we're never apart.
That is true. That is true. A lot of shows, Coach Nick. A lot of shows we do. Okay, today, Serbia, Team USA. Kevin Durant checks into the game. As he's checking into the game, I turn to my friend and I say, that guy's a cheat code, man. That guy is a basketball cheat code. Then he plays like a basketball cheat code. There's nothing really Serbia could do at that point, right? When Kevin Durant is playing like Kevin Durant.
I agree. I think there was two things going for him. One, while he was rehabbing and taking his time getting back and getting healthy, I bet you he was shooting a ton of shots, just sort of getting his rhythm and all that stuff. And also the game plan didn't really include KD because Serbia had nothing to look at this season to see how he's going to fit in, what he's going to do. So all of that was a mystery to them. He comes in and let's just say the game was kind of in the balance a couple different times, and he would just come right in and hit a bunch of buckets and get that separation that they needed, and the game slowly pulled away.
Yeah, watching LeBron and KD in a different setting, is it possible that these guys are just still the two best players in the world?
I mean, I got to tell you, watching KD today versus anybody else on the floor, you'd have to say he was the better player. You know what I mean? Like, and LeBron was really good. There's a couple of weird stuff that happens with LeBron. Like, he had a couple turnovers that were kind of like really head scratching to me, and another decision to go instead of pull it out for the last shot at the end of I think of the first quarter. But KD was just literally like a shark and like just singularly focused, was going to hit whatever shot he took. And also long, disruptive on defense. When he came in, the defense picked up as well. And then LeBron fed off of that too. So they all played better defense. I thought that I'd seen for most of the other exhibition games. But that said, they have to be worried because this Serbia team is not as good as some of the other teams they're going to face.
Yeah, it's interesting with LeBron because over the course of an NBA season, he's probably not like a top 3 guy anymore, right? Like in the regular season. But when you put him in it, and we saw him in the midseason tournament, the in-season tournament, if you will, if you put him like in these tournament situations, he could be the best player on any given night, and he usually is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch him hook up with like Curry, and you get like this different, pairings you don't normally see in the NBA. And so that's all kind of the fun that we're getting from this. And so we'll see how much fun it continues to be as they play guys who can hurt them more on their defensive end. But as far as the offense goes, it really is hard to say anything negative about it, only because they're just that good. They can score any way they want to. What's interesting to me, though, is the way they're scoring. And it's the big guys that are not going to really get any kind of opportunities like they would normally do. Embiid, I just don't think Anthony Davis, those guys are not necessarily going to have like big scoring games the way this offense is functioning.
And AD is probably the better fit because he doesn't need to be a big time scorer to be effective, right? Like defensively, he probably fits better with this team, and offensively. And, Embiid's obviously an all-time great player, but I don't know, man. It's been looking clunky. There looks like there's a little bit less flow when he's playing at times. Do you think we need to see more AD minutes?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm calling up the minutes right now, so I want to take a peek here at what the minutes broke down. So, and it was a blowout for the whole fourth quarter, which is another thing we have to talk about because you saw Jason Tatum didn't play, neither did Halliburton. He could have thrown him a bone, I think, in that fourth quarter, give him some minutes. But let's see how the minutes broke down.
I think so. I think sometimes players that don't play the whole game, some of them rather not play at all, right? When it's like kind of just getting thrown a bone, as you said, because it's just like you're out of rhythm. The team already won. Like, you know what I mean?
I get what you mean, but I also don't want anyone to think that you shouldn't be valuing playing time whenever you get it.
Right? I agree with that too. From like a teaching, especially at the high school and college level. But these guys, I feel like it might be a little bit different. Like they're already all-time greats. It's like, do you really want garbage time minutes?
I mean, Coach Kerr talked about it at the end of the game, saying he had spoken to Tatum before, knowing that KD was going to come back. Those were the minutes that Tatum would have gotten. And so, they kind of already had made it kind of clear, like he probably wouldn't get an opportunity to play. Although, again, they're all the way out there. They might as well play if they have a chance. And I would have given them a few minutes. And also, let me see. KD played, let's see how many minutes he played. He played 17, so they did a nice job of keeping his minutes down. He had 23 points in 17 minutes. He was just, I think he missed one shot, and then some of those were tough. So yeah, I mean, I think that was a big part of it. That they probably had decided ahead of time. Either way. So from my standpoint, I just probably would have said, let's give him let's give him a nice 7-minute run in the fourth quarter, keep him fresh, keep his rhythm going. That's the other thing. But they didn't get to it.
NBA media, the internet, they're in an uproar because I've seen people saying on the internet saying, what could Derek White do that Jason Tatum can't? But it's interesting, even before the whole Derek White, Jaylen Brown thing went down, a little bit of controversy. I thought Derek White was the perfect fit. I said it on my show before. And there's only so many stars you need. Like, you have the star power already, and it's good to get some role guys in there, some winning players in there who could fit a role.
Oh, for sure. And he does a lot of things defensively. He did some more today that, Tatum probably doesn't do anyway. So in different position. So yeah, it's just one of those numbers games. It's kind of tough for him and tough for Tatum to have to deal with that. And then Jaylen Brown is sure is upset too, because I think I said on our shows, Jaylen Brown could certainly play the Derek White role. I mean, I think he could do it. I don't think he'd bristle too much, but I suppose you already have it. It's already been displayed by Derek White. We know it. He doesn't have to try and change anything to kind of play that role. So let's just bring him in and make it smooth. So yeah, I suspect, again, there's going to be a couple of games like this where they'll have a nice lead and they'll be able to score whenever they want to. I'm obviously more curious to see what's going to happen when that tie game, right? Because it was a little bit closer in the third quarter too, when that extends to the fourth quarter and how they respond to that.
Yeah, I'm concerned about that as well. And I think two things could be true. I do think there's politics that came into the decision not putting Jaylen Brown on this team, but I also think Derek White is probably the better fit.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, what were the politics? We're not going to get into like the shoe stuff, are we? Is that what it is?
I think that's part of it. I mean, Grant Hill says that's not true. He used to play in Feelers himself. So, but I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I'd be surprised if the shoe companies got involved in that stuff too. But you never know. I mean, certainly, Nike does have a stake in all of this, and so. But I would be a little bit surprised. But again, I won't rule it out. But either way, I don't know. That whole question is, will it even matter? Right? It would matter if like the USA doesn't win, and like maybe they could have used Brown or like a better player than that position, but I don't know. It's an interesting situation because these teams don't play together, or the Team USA doesn't play together very often, very
that's
much.
what I'm saying.
And so there probably could be times when they're going to go against these other teams who can has that chemistry. And I don't know how they're going to deal. That's what I'm looking forward to. I like the underdog story. So it's not like I'm cheering against Team USA or I'm a hater on my own country. I just like the underdog. I like seeing teams when they're executing, when they don't have the same kind of talent. That excites me probably more than the dominant team that just overwhelms them with strength. Like when you see LeBron go to the basket. I mean, it's awesome. It's awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
But I always respond better to like a high post, backdoor, bounce pass, layup. I like that, or dunk.
It's almost just talent defying basketball flow and rhythm and continuity, right? Like, you're just that good. It doesn't even matter. That's kind of like what KD did today.
Oh, and by the way, LeBron had a beautiful backdoor cut.
Yes.
A pass out of the bounds for a dunk or a layup. You know what I mean? So he does that too. He does the good coaching stuff that we all like to see. So, that is also when it's really fun, the breathtaking, high post entry, cutter across, hit him. And then I think it was Drew Holiday turned and fired it behind him for a dunk on the other from Bam or whatever that was. The USA is treating us to some of that display. Not as much, but it was better today, I thought, than the last game we saw.
So are you more confident now? Because we both had our concerns on the B-Ball Breakdown live show. Are you a little more confident now after watching tonight?
I don't know. Serbia's defense was pretty bad a lot of the time. So it's like, I don't know how indicative it's.
They were fouling a lot, right? And fouls weren't being called. It felt like, but I guess it's just a different rhythm in international basketball.
Well, I mean, they certainly got the one that they took on KD, like a tackle in midcourt, another one on Booker. Those were a little bit strange, but Serbia was trying to be a little bit more physical, but the U.S. was physical too. They were grabbing, holding, pushing, trying to get away with whatever they can get away with, and even those calls didn't clean it up. So I suspect Serbia was, trying to fight back a little bit on some of that stuff. And the refs will have their hands full as we progress, because not only Are they going to try and, each team is going to do whatever they can do to win a game. And then you're going to have a lot of talking to the refs, I imagine, from a lot of different players.
All right. So, I mean, I think we're in agreement that Anthony Edwards should start on this team, right?
I dipped my toe at this one on Twitter during the game, and the Devin Booker fans came out of the woodwork. There's a lot of them out there. Who knew?
Hmm.
Now, the thing with Devin Booker, what I was upset with the last time I was watching was I didn't like a lot of his shots. They were heavily contested midi off the dribble stuff. Some of them were like, I haven't shot for a while. I'm going to shoot now because I haven't shot for a while. Like that's kind of what it felt like. Today, I think he went 4 for 5 or 5 for 6, and I think 2 or 3 of those threes were off of like missed offensive rebounds off of their own missed shot, broken plays, catch and shoot. Beautiful. That was great. And then he had another one where he caught and shoot. The one I didn't like was, midway through the third quarter, he takes a 10 dribble ISO on the right block, turn around, fadeaway, miss with a heavily contested shot.
Yeah.
Like, that's the one I would like to see him avoid. Just play the Kyle Korver role perfectly. Do that. And then then you're doing what would satisfy me, I suppose. Now Anthony Edwards doesn't do that. Everyone's like, well, he doesn't blend in, he doesn't pass, whatever. Not that Booker passes a little bit, but he's not a great passer on that end. And that he's not like a facilitator. But there's no question that when you're watching Anthony Edwards, he's just overwhelming, and he can do whatever he wants out there. And that's another cheat code. And he comes in, KD comes in, LeBron is in that mix a little bit, and that's the team that goes on the run.
I think Anthony Edwards is more talented. I think he's more sure of himself on the offensive side. You mentioned the tough shots that Devin Booker takes. It's felt like sometimes he had the right shot and he wouldn't take it too. That's the interesting thing. And then also the two-way ability of Anthony Edwards. I mean, there's a huge difference there on defense.
Maybe Booker watched our show, because I felt that way too, where he was a little bit more selective, I suppose, a little less aggressive. And I think that was perfect. And then, you know what? A little less aggressive, they're going to find you. I mean, that team out there, when he's with them, they're going to find the open shooter. They're going to make sure that if there's someone there, they're going to hit him. And generally with someone like LeBron and Steph, that's going to be on target and on time. So he's just got to, just find those kind of shots, and he can end up leading the team in scoring, right? He can end up hitting 5 threes, all wide open, all catch and shoot, easy to hit a couple other baskets around the margins and end up leading the team in scoring without having to do much at all.
So, I mean, I know Steve Kerr has been on your show before. What if Steve gives you a call, Coach Nick, and asks you, what adjustments can I make? What advice would you give him?
Well, I mean, I think it's a lineup mostly. And so I would try and pay down. I mean, Booker played the most minutes of anybody today. And I think that was probably rightfully so, because he, like how we described, he was just playing within the flow of the offense. And that's the big marker for me. If he can do that, then great. But again, I think that they just need to get to the Anthony Edwards lineup. Obviously, Kevin Durant, that's an easy adjustment. Just throw him on the court. And that'll be another big one. And if Kevin Durant can kind of, come back from this and not be too sore and have the same energy in the next game, whatever, then you should see that would probably be the thing that switches my thinking as far as what the odds are of getting a gold. I think we called it, did we say 50-50?
I mean, I asked you, would you take Team USA or the field? And what would you take at this point?
Right. And I think I was sort of thinking it's like 50-50 whether they can get the gold. I think I said 100% they're going to get a medal. I think we know they're going to get a silver or bronze at least. So, but with KD in the lineup now that we have, and we can see what that is, then you got to give them a much better chance to win the gold. It's better than 50-50. It's got to be 70-30 or something like that.
Speaking of Steve Kerr, Lauri Markkanen, there's a lot of trade rumors. Utah Warriors. What are your thoughts on it? My thing is, like, why would Utah want to give up on Lauri at this point? What, they're like trying to get a better selection in the draft? I don't really get, like, he's young. They're a rebuilding team. He's really good. He's been an all-star. Like, what do the Jazz get out of it?
I mean, I think it's the timeline in theory. If you're going to want to try and rebuild completely and get Cooper Flag, then I'm looking at what is Markkanen's age here? He is 26. So he's probably a couple of years beyond what they would think they're looking for to match everybody up. It's probably a big payday they got to deal with. They don't want to pay because it's a small market.
Okay.
That's a big one too, because It doesn't sound as much. I did some research looking on what the latest details were about a potential trade. It sounds like it'd have to be a 3-team trade because the Warriors need to get rid of Wiggins to be able to get Markkanen and then extend him, which is what a big part of that. And they couldn't do that with Wiggins. But guess what? There's no market for Wiggins. They can't find this third team that would take Wiggins. They don't have a good enough pick, I guess, in other people's minds. The Warriors don't. And so they're kind of stuck right now with, and then it sounds like, BP Bajemski is part of this, which they better give him up to get Markkanen back if that's what it is. But I think the Jazz wanted like a couple of firsts, BP and Moses Moody. Like they wanted a kind of a bigger package. And I don't think that the Warriors are willing to do that. They really like BP.
They think he's a future All-Star, from what I'm hearing.
I mean, I don't know if he's a future All-Star, honestly. I think he fits in really well with this team, and he's really good. I mean, I remember, I can remember hearing from the team saying, keep your eye on this guy, like in training camp, like this guy's really good. We got to find him some more minutes. And I was like, really? And I saw, what I see in the training camp and in the early part of the season. But you know what? He proved me wrong. I mean, geez, beautiful floater game. He can shoot it. He can handle the ball. He can pass it. He's got a good game.
It's interesting, and I have my own thoughts on this, but why do you think players that have been all-stars all of a sudden have no market? We hear about it with Brandon Ingram. We hear about it with Zach LaVine. We hear about it with Andrew Wiggins. Why so?
Well, Wiggins is a specific case because he missed part of the season and he's just been struggling with, off-court issues. And I don't think anybody really has time to deal with that. And unfortunately, the Warriors have been very patient and they're very, nurturing of that situation. And then at some point it's costing, wins, and it's costing Steph the end of his career. They can't have it anymore. They have to be able to move off of him. And then do they just cut him or something like that? I mean, and pay that salary? I don't doubt that's going to happen, but they desperately want to move on from him. I don't blame them. I think it's just maybe a change of scenery will help. But it's just gone on too long with that issue. And he's not been able to get back to anywhere near where he was when they did win that title.
So yeah, how about the other guys? Brandon Ingram, Zach LaVine. I mean, these guys are talented guys.
Yeah. I mean, Zach LaVine's been kind of buried in obscurity to some degree, and he's a really good scorer. And I think we've said this, where if he was the third best player on a team, like he probably would be really even better and it really show people that he could do a lot of things. But it's a high price tag. Those guys have a lot of money that you'd have to pay them to bring them in. And can you get 75% of that production for 60% of the cost? I think that's probably what they think.
And possibly a better fit, right, around other stars.
Yeah, I mean, Ingram might, to some degree, I think, even though he likes to handle the ball and be dominant on the ball, he does seem to fit in. But okay, if you're going to have that role on a team, you can't pay him what he's been getting paid. And so it's a weird conundrum, and perhaps how the future of the NBA is going, where there might just be certain stretches of time for a year or two where not a lot of things happen. The free agency hasn't lined up properly with the money, and everyone, there's not a big enough market for everybody, so it just dries up pretty quick. But I would imagine that, Ingram's a nice player. He can really score, but I just feel like people aren't going to think that he's going to move the needle enough to pay him that much money.
Tying the bow on the Warriors marketing thing, do you think the Warriors championship window is still open? And how would Lauri change that? Would he give them like a way better chance? Because I think he's a really great player. Like, I've linked him to multiple teams that he could help. He seems like he's a solid fit so many places and could play at an all-star level.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he can shoot the ball, he can handle it, he can pass a little bit. He would fit really well in that offense. So you'd be throwing a guy in there that should, be a legit scorer, even off the dribble. And that's definitely what they need, having, they lost over the offseason, Clay, CP3. They need some more shooting. They need a guy like that size. Now, defensively, it doesn't help him as much. Draymond would play the center, I guess, alongside him. So that would be a conundrum as well, how they're going to handle that, because with Jokic or Embiid or those kind of teams, like they need somebody better. I don't think Looney is the guy. So now, what do you do? Like, how do you handle that defensively? But certainly on the offensive end, Markkanen unlocks a lot of things for them that they can get back to doing.
Coach Nick, great stuff. You're always welcome back on the show. Where can we find you for all the great videos and those live shows with Andrew Combo Salad?
Yeah, not hard to find. Just type in B-Ball Breakdown or just B-Ball at autofill for you wherever you go, and that's where you find us.
Talk soon.